Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pitch Perfect, a show where we deep dive into the stories, ideas, and solutions that are shaping the future of revenue teams. I am Snehal, co-founder and CEO of MeetRecord, and today I am super excited to be joined by someone who has been doing some amazing work in the B2B marketing space, Srikrishna, CEO and co-founder of Factors.ai, a platform that's helping marketers go to places. Srikrishna, thanks for being here. So glad that we could make this happen.
Thanks a lot, Snehal. Excited myself to be on the other side of the podcasts and StreamYard recordings. Very excited to be here, and that's one of the reasons why it's actually a kind of I wouldn't say just validation, but it's also a lot of it's great if you can share your stories and your backgrounds and other things to a larger audience. And thanks a lot for making this happen. I'm very obliged and happy to be here. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Amazing, Shri Krishna. So, all right, let's rewind a bit. As you said, we want to learn about your story. Uh, can Before we get on to the nerdy stuff, right? So, can you just take back us to your journey and what actually led to Factors AI?
So a lot of things. Good part is I was lucky in multiple parts. Just to give you a background, born and brought up in Chennai, college in Bangalore, RV College here in Bangalore, then went to IIM. Couple of years in FMCG and banking. I was in Dabur India Limited. That's where I learned a lot around sales and marketing. And then I was in investment banking, which is also a different kind of like a large B2B sales kind of work, which is there. Then after that, I joined InMobi, which is a mobile ad tech company, India's first unicorn. I just joined when they just became a unicorn, and that was a 7 years of amazing experience. I got a chance to actually build and scale a new business unit. I started the whole affiliate business, scaled it to more than $120 million in P&L. Was part of the exec team as I was leading InMobi, and how all this came together is like two things. One is like InMobi gave me my co-founder Praveen. Praveen and I had worked together at InMobi, almost overlapped for the complete 7 years. He was on the product and data side, and I was on the business side. So both of us met there. We wanted to start up. My other third co-founder is Arvind. Arvind was my college classmate in RB College. So in a sense, it's like my background coming back into both InMobi and being in college in Bangalore gave me my two co-founders. So that was a hugely lucky part of being in the right place in the right time. In a sense, how we got together, and most importantly, InMobi also gave us exposure to the ad tech business. Ads is something which is a very unique business. Ads is never going to go away, right? From let's say radio to newspaper to television ads to mobile ads to social ads and other things. This is going to be something which has always been there. And optimizing ads is something which is a very large business. Because it's like trillions of dollars getting poured into there, and optimizing itself always like if you're doing your optimization very well, you can build $1 billion plus business. Was the idea which emerged from it. We saw multiple ad tech companies in the mobile side like AppsFlyer, Branch, etc. in our work. We thought the same thing can apply to the B2B space as well. And that's how our initial ideas for Factors.ai came about. And we started building. And when we started out, we were also lucky in the form like both like the InMobi founders, they backed us up, not just like, okay, when we said like we're moving on, they said like, okay, we'll also angel invest in you. So they gave us the angel investment. Freshworks founder Girish and few other founders are also kind of put in money. And we also got a seed check from Elevation Capital and Emergent Ventures itself to start up in Feb 2020. Actually, that happened. The whole funding happened somewhere in June 2020, but we left InMobi in Feb 2020, and the first COVID wave happened, and four months of lockdown. And by the time we could come out, set up MCA portals and other this thing to make things work, it took that time. But this is how Factors.ai started up. And primarily, the whole idea was like ad optimization exists in all industries. B2B is just emerging into the digital space heavily. All B2B companies commercially will spend a lot of ads. We have to optimize those ads. And that's the original idea. And to a large extent, we have actually kept that together to the original idea. So, in essence, what Factors.ai helps is like we help B2B companies run their marketing campaigns efficiently with AI powered buyer journey analytics, signal collection, audiences, ad optimization, and attribution, all in a single package. So our typical customers now, we have more than 400 customers, are companies with spend a lot on LinkedIn ads or Google ads or B2B companies which are there, which spend on ads to drive both their inbound campaigns and their brand campaigns very well. And we work with them to help them scale up efficiently. Ad tech is the second largest budget for most companies beyond their people costs. So that way we are in a pretty good sweet spot in terms of both pain and also in growth. So it's
A pretty amazing story. I mean, actually, founders and the synergy actually makes a startup happen and scale. I mean, that's what everyone and investors have generally seen. And good to see the story of how the founders came together, identified a problem, and get started with it. Of course, you explained the main pain point or the problem that Factors is solving, but maybe we can double click on that, right? So we both have been working for GTM teams a lot. Sometimes the sales and the marketing teams seem to be out of sync, right? So what specific sort of a problem? Maybe you can go into details this time as Factors actually solving for marketing as well as sales teams.
Of course, this is actually, thanks a lot for this question, because why it matters is this is something which, when we originally thought about the problem, we didn't think of it as a very clear problem or a key pain point, because in mobile ad tech or any mobile apps or this thing, there is no sales team exactly. Because, for example, if I'm running growth at Mindra, I'm not selling each and every item. I'm basically spending on marketing ads on Google and other this thing. I'm doing social influencing. I'm just driving growth. People download and buy from the app, and then the whole sales happen. There is no kind of a separate sales officer and a separate this thing. The chief growth officer handles marketing completely and delivers and owns numbers. But in B2B, when you look at it, that's where the sync or the alignment of sales and marketing comes into place, such as that, where like you have a marketing team which traditionally runs top of the funnel campaigns, whether it's brand marketing, events. They do a lot of performance ads. They also work with the SDR teams to bring in leads and other things. And then there is a sales team which actually closes the deals, where like they take the leads, nurture it over a period of time, and also discuss commercials, and eventually they close it together. And when we came into B2B, that's where we saw a huge disconnect, where like brand marketing teams KPIs are more on spends and also in terms of lead generation. Sales team KPIs are on even more downstream, where it's on revenue and pipeline generation. And this is kind of disconnected because time wise itself, it's a long distance between them. At a very simple level, like in a B2C, if you want to buy something on Myntra, you look at it, you find a t-shirt, you click on it, you go and buy. Maximum like 20 minutes. Even for consumer durable products, maximum you'll do research for 1 week, 2 weeks. But if you're buying a CRM for your company, if you're buying an ABM platform for your company, if you're buying a project management suite for your company, you will take a lot of time. That's the first this thing which happens. Second thing is like the decision making also involves multiple stakeholders. It's not just like the company CEO wants to buy the product. The CIO or someone else who's the kind of in charge of data and security, he needs to approve. Procurement team needs to approve based on the thing. Finance team needs to approve based on the budget. The executive sponsors, apart from that, the users who are going to use the product and other things need to align, like this is the product, this is how it will actually help us enhance a job, and then they have to align on the timeline. All of these users need to be nurtured. It's not just one lead coming in from, let's say, a chief marketing officer or a VP marketing or something matters. You have to get multiple kind of people aligned in a single place, or like a lot of ships to align in a single place. This is where sales and marketing alignment breaks, because sales looks at it as creating one lead. Marketing actually has to work the whole buyer group and also wait through the whole time to make the whole pain and this thing to see through. And to bring in alignment here is where it's a tough part and other thing. And we have seen multiple companies solve for it in very different ways, where like either they look at both marketing and sales taking the same pipeline goals, marketing taking pipeline goals and closely monitoring the revenue stream, or sales also taking sales goals and also working closely with marketing to say like which companies they are going after, how is marketing giving ad cover for the same set of companies. And that's where the alignment starts coming in. Still, it's a kind of like, I wouldn't say it's a tech problem, it's also a cultural problem to figure out. In a sense, it's like marketing teams have the tool budgets. They also have a pretty small team, and they have certain kind of like positioning and few other this thing to worry about. And it's like they have to create pipeline 2 quarters ahead before this thing. Sales teams are much larger teams, and they have the salary budgets, but they have to worry about more revenue, and they live and die by the numbers. So aligning that also comes together in a very different way. and happy to discuss further also in terms of like how we would see it.
Yeah, yeah. So, where do you think currently the B2B teams go wrong in terms of GTM analytics today, in today's times? Yeah.
So, in a sense, what they have been traditionally, you just look at it as like pre COVID era and also even a pre AI era, which is there. 10 years back, most companies, except for the ones like Freshworks and HubSpot, which had the whole inbound marketing coming in, most of the companies in B2B didn't even worry about exactly like marketing and marketing signals as such. We had a brand and we had the brand developed. The sales teams were primarily focused on just saying that I want to hit these companies. Either I'll call them up or I'll go and meet them up and other this thing, or email them over multiple channels. I'll mostly get the meeting. Email reply rates were like 5%, 7%, etc. And they were able to go and have the conversations. Okay, what happened after COVID is like one a huge digital explosion. You can't go and meet everyone, so you have to meet everyone through a digital contact. So which means like you have to run ads to them to make sure they know you and they come to you rather than you go and reach out to them, which is there. Second is with all the sales automation tools which are coming in, email sending became too easy. So which means people are sending hundreds of emails. Reply rates actually started coming down, which means you had to do a lot of marketing before to actually get it. So this again comes into the sales and marketing problem, because alignment problem, which is basically all of these two things coming together. And the last thing, because of these two things coming back to the same question, is like now, earlier you used to say that this account is fit based on just static metrics. This company is similar to other companies in my CRM of my existing customer base. It's more than 100 employees. It's more than $50 million in terms of revenue. Hence, it's a right account for me to reach out. But now, in the last couple of years, specifically in the last 1.5, 2 years, after both the GPT era, the whole AI, and also the whole automation and the growth in a lot of AI companies, you have started getting a lot more real time signals. In a sense, you can't just work on static signals and do a lead scoring and then go after. You have to work on real time signals in terms of like which companies are hiring, which companies are coming to your website, which companies are engaging with your LinkedIn posts, which companies are looking at your LinkedIn ads. Are the same company coming back to your pricing page? Are they replying to your email? You are able to grab these signals in real time from multiple sources, then analyze that and then see how you react to each and every one with context. So earlier, the whole account prioritization, everything was more like these accounts make sense for me. Now you get the context of these accounts makes sense for you now to reach out with this kind of a context. This company, you send an ad. This company, you can actually send a LinkedIn message. This company, you pick up the call and go and meet them in the same, because they are in a different stage of buying cycle. That is something which has actually changed, and in terms of number of signals. Hence, what you need to architect for yourself as a GTM team is like you have to architect yourself to bring in all these signals, prioritize them, and give it to the sales teams and the marketing teams in a easily usable way so that they can actually make the systems or like run their GTMs efficiently. So in a sense, it's like a couple of things, lot more data, and which means like a lot more data engineering and data analytics and the GTM orchestration and the engineering which we talk about. And this also means like a lot more, you can also be far more efficient in the way how you actually think. In a sense, it's like an era where like from landline phones, when we moved to mobile phones and SMSs and WhatsApp messages, it became far more efficient and far more the thing. Now we are actually having the whole kind of similar kind of explosion in the B2B era, which was there. If you ask me, is it a new trend? It's not a new trend. We have seen the same trend play out in mobile ad tech and B2C. Just that B2B is also now catching up to the trend, and hence there is an explosion of companies also doing this.
Yeah, you mentioned context, and even at MeetRecord, right? For us, context is the key. Earlier, the teams would just update few things in their CRM, but the context often get missed, right? And without context, you don't know what exactly is working, what's not working. And you also mentioned about signals, right? So even when you are doing conversations, understanding those buyer signals, their concerns, their psychology, their decision-making process helps you get that upper edge to actually go through those stages, those deal stages, to eventually go and close those deals, right? So amazing. So just doubling down a bit on the signals, right? So what are those sort of red flags which the GTM teams or the marketing teams can now uncover, which earlier they were probably not noticing, right? Which were going unnoticed with both sales and marketing teams. Are there any red flags that they can now uncover with factors?
Of course. So very, very simply, it's like earlier you used to have conversations over emails and you send an email and you hope for someone to reply. Now with Factors today, you can send an email and see whether the same company is coming back and checking out the pricing page. You can understand like what they are actually evaluating. Are they serious about evaluating? And plus, are they, what is the kind of key pain point are they evaluating? Are they sending out, did you do a demo and are they coming back and checking out your data privacy agreement or your security page, etc. So that what they want to get a confirmation and all those things. Third, most importantly, we also layer in second party signals. We are partners with G2. We can bring in data from like, are they looking at alternatives on G2? Which alternatives they are looking at? Who are they actually wanting to talk to? Why this matters is like any company at any point in time is not just talking to you, right? They're actually running an RFP process with multiple people. Are they looking at some competitors? Hence, now the AE has context to say that, hey, we had a great discussion. I saw someone, or you were coming and looking at our pricing pages. Is this a concern, or how do shall I can address you with an ROI case study on like why we make sense for this price. Second, or it can be something, it's not about the prices. Enterprises don't have the problem of price. They want to know that whether the price drives a certain ROI in their mind very, very clearly. Same thing goes with like you're checking out a security page. This is a SOC 2 compliance report and our ISO page, which is there. For third, okay, we saw that you have been checking out our alternatives on G2. And specifically these alternatives, let me send you a kind of like a battle card on like why we are better than this competitor. All of these things can be done in real time now, which earlier was basically completely blind. Even if not fully blind, it was partially blind, where like they'll get systems of all these data points were siloed so much, where like G2 might say some data, you'd have to see it in the G2 dashboard. What's happening on the website, you have to see it in some other dashboard. What's happening with your email, you have to see it on your CRM data. All of these things were disjointed. Now we are able to pull in all the data in a single sense, have a complete kind of a scoring mechanism, say like what signals matter, who's in danger, who's not in danger, which companies you need to follow up at different points in time. This is one is of course for an account executive. Even for an SDR, he'll send 5 emails today. He can check back whether the same companies came back to your website over the next week, because people see emails or even ads and all, something like a billboard. They'll see the billboard, they won't immediately act on it. They're not going to reply on the email. They'll come organically to your website, and we can lighten that up. Once you shine light into all of these things, marketers become more data aware. When they become data aware or signal aware, they become far more efficient in terms of how do they prioritize your time, their time. For example, at any point in time for us, we have close to 6,000 companies for us to advertise to. This is companies which are spending more than, let's say, $1 million on LinkedIn. This is like a pretty large list. But do I have my SDRs or even having accounts to go after every single account here? It'll be more like top of the funnel campaigns, but I would focus on only companies which have seen our LinkedIn ads, come to my website, and also looked at G2. That's a much narrower set, because these are the people who not only saw my ads, they also got interested enough to come to my website. Hence, they are brand aware and solution aware. Most importantly, they're also looking at G2, which is a review site when people who look at only when they are evaluating products. So they are in the evaluation criteria. Now is the right time to talk to us. Others who are not in the evaluation criteria, they're just checking out our ads or checking out our website. I will keep them in a slow drip in terms of either an email or a campaign or a marketing campaign, so that to get them interested in a substance. This, in essence, makes one sales team's time very clearly, because one thing we have never learned how to crunch is we're not able to see how we can elongate the day from 24 hours to 36 hours or 48 hours. So the only way to do is we have to do better in the 24 hours. That's one thing. It gives back more time for people to do the right things. Second, for marketing also, you have only so much money. You can focus on the right accounts to show ads to. You can show, you can spend $100 on 1,000 accounts, or you can spend $100 on 100 accounts. The effect will be much better, because the reach and the frequency of ads showing will always be different. So it will also come out very personalized and it will have a huge difference for them.
Pretty interesting. So, I mean, one thing, like we are also using factors. So we are capturing those signals and trying to prioritize the important accounts that both marketing and sales teams can focus on. Since we talked of various things around intent signals and basically tech stack, and I'm sure you're also, tech stack is something you're also obsessed about, right? Just want to
Yeah.
help out few of, our friends in the early stage startups, right? So early stage startups have very low bandwidth, right? They have limited resources. So, how should they think about building a GTM analytics stack?
Yeah. So early stage startup, I'll just convert it into multiple levels, right? Let's say you're a 0 to 10 employee or a 20 employee startup. You might have
Okay,
raised a seed fund or you haven't raised a seed fund. You are still at your early design partners or just moved beyond your design partners. So all you're hoping for to get your first 30 customers. So the tech stack is like even your website has certain website, but you haven't actually built out a huge amount of SEO and other this thing. The very tech stack which I would talk about is something like you can have your Factors.ai as a free plan. You can just identify which companies are coming to your website based on a free plan. It's completely free just to know like who's coming to your website. You need to know who's coming to your website. Why it matters is because it's still in the founder-led outbound stage. Founder will be having multiple conversations over email and LinkedIn and some investor-based intros and other things. He has to know which companies are now showing interest back to him because people might engage with you. Are they also showing enough interest to come back and check out your blogs, what they're doing, so that you can go and then upsell to them? Second thing which I would really ask for is like you need to have some form of email sequencing setup. So it can be something like an Apollo.io or something. So you can set up an inbox and you can also set up a sequence and other thing. Because this very narrow set of like you want to get 30 customers, you want to know which companies to reach out, and you can actually set up a sequence to reach out to these companies with a little bit of personalized steps and also email and LinkedIn and call recording also included. In a sense, like you kind of slow nurture these accounts in a sense. That's one thing. Most importantly, the last thing which I would also recommend to have is a LinkedIn premium account so that you can connect with multiple accounts. And this thing, because you also have to do a LinkedIn automated connection. There are tools like HeyReach and others which do the automation as well. If you want to, you can try that out. Sometimes some people are more comfortable using personalized outreaches and all the thing. Or some people are very good at doing the other thing, HeyReach and other thing. I would recommend a mix of both. You do some level of personalization, but you also have automation and you have sequencing and a tool to track that automation because memory is treacherous. You need to know who you're going after, which is there.
got
So
it.
this is a very
Got it.
early stage stack, which is there. As you improve, saying that you start spending on ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, and other things, that's when you start like $3,000 to $5,000 and because you know who are your competitors. You're bidding on a competitor key and then looking at who's coming to your website. You know which companies you want. You are showing them LinkedIn ads. That's when you can start using the same email sequencer tools, and you can also have your LinkedIn outreach and other tools. Plus, you can also have a more upgraded plan of factors today so that you know what is happening across all these channels, who you need to prioritize, which is there. And as you scale up even further next, that's when you start actually looking at even more advanced tools. Do you want to run a agentscape or something like you can get a clay agents and then run your resume? Or you can have a very specific, like you can buy a G2 subscription because now you're of a certain stage, you know what competitors are and and you also have a product market fit. You want to know which competitors are your ideal customers are looking at, what is happening in these particular pages, etc. You start expanding the tech stack, and then it also becomes like you have when you do demos and you have to convert the demos better, so you have a product like Storylane or others to show the demo of the product on your website, or a Loom video which actually shows embeds videos on your website, etc. Plus, you can also then add additional tech stack tools like Trumpet and others to make sure that your demos convert well. So this is the GTM tech stack which I'd convert as the company matures up to become $1 million ARR. After $1 million ARR, it's more process than tech stack.
Do you see, I see you mentioned few softwares. Do you see any overlap or handshakes between a revenue intelligence solution like MeetRecord and Factors, and how
Of
can then
course,
play out?
I primarily see that in multiple levels. One thing is like leave alone the part that gets complementary,
Mhm.
because there is a very clear use case where like there is accounts and there is marketing and teams, GTM teams which uses, and revenue intelligence is the kind of like complementary part within this. But more importantly, we also go after the same set of companies which are there. And the companies, as they scale beyond a point, they'll use multiple tools together. Companies coming in together where like we work with these guys together makes a lot of sense. It's like how allies work together. In a sense, it's like, okay, this is a block of allies who are part of the same, the thing. We are all part of, let's say, the Indian subcontinent or SARC or whatever. It just makes sense for people to do a trade deal much more easier. So we give a better together vibe very clearly, and it also works very clearly. That's the first part. The second part, the first part is like both are completely complementary, but we are going after the this thing. The third part, which is also more important, is like Each product are very good at solving for certain set of use cases, whether it's ad optimization or attribution and other thing. You deliver very, very different things around revenue intelligence and other thing which comes in. And this part is also important for certain specific micro stakeholders here. And what we do in the first part is specifically important for certain stakeholders here. Both of that together actually come together. So it's a kind of like product level work also, which actually comes together.
Awesome, awesome. So let's go back to some stories now, right? And because stories generally hit harder than stats, right? So
Yeah.
do you have any favorite customer story, a story where you helped the company maybe turn around things a bit? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we learned a lot from our customers. So earlier stage, we were asking customers like how you want to use it, where you want to use it. So users this thing. Now we have slowly started becoming more prescriptive. Like we have seen these kind of use cases come out very well, and then use it. One level is like there is a very large company based out of Coimbatore, Kobe.co and other the thing. They use Factors.ai pretty heavily, but they also use Factors.ai plus additional GTM services and all those things with AA agents to totally replace their whole marketing research team and get them to do SDR work. Because market research team in a lot of companies do a lot of manual work. It's like once they know an account or whatever it is, then they have to enrich their account, they have to add context to their account, they have to say why this account needs to be reached out and give it to a SDR to do an outbound or something. This is a lot of grunt work and it's generally done by college interns or first year, second year college grads, which is there. This is something which can be completely automated so that the same user can have very reliable information completely automated and then use the data and then go back to kind of like focus on strategic selling rather than focus on data research, which is it. That's something which was a very solid use case. Second is we work with multiple large enterprises. I'm not able to name them directly, but these enterprises are those who spend 80 to 100K on LinkedIn ads. Very clearly, using Factors.ai improves your LinkedIn ROI by 30%. And the key base to this is we are a LinkedIn marketing partner. What we do is we bring in LinkedIn data and then layer it with your CRM, your website, your other ad channel data to very clearly say like which campaigns are working, which accounts are actually reached, which accounts are not reached, which accounts in ICP has not seen your ads yet, etc. Retargeting, CAPI, conversion CPA, all of that come together to make sure you run your LinkedIn ads far more efficiently. And our customers generally see when they spend, let's say, like $500,000 on LinkedIn, they see immediate value of 100 to 150K. This is on the costs alone or ROI part. Second is the revenue part is like they're able to significantly influence far more accounts on LinkedIn than what they were able to do earlier. Because what we in essence do is like we are able to very clearly in real time say which are the accounts which are highly intent and should be the ones which should more high propensity to convert based on our AI models. And are we showing enough ads to them so that we can bring them in? And that simple thing alone actually one makes their revenue pipeline grow up by 15-20%, but costs also reduce by 25 to 30% of the same bucket, which is there. So these were the two broad use cases which we have seen a lot of interesting work come out of this thing. And I would suggest say like okay, at 400 customers, it's we have multiple battle stories of like how companies use our product and use different ways to actually scale that up. So that's something which comes through automatically.
You mentioned about, working with enterprises. I mean, I had a conversation with few enterprise leaders recently. They mentioned to me one thing that, there are so many AI tools now there. There are hundreds of AI tools now there. So they are themselves confused on how they should evaluate and buy an AI tool, right? What should be the two or three metrics they should track, right? So from your point of view, from your experience, like how should they go about
Of
buying
course,
such
there
tools?
is a clutter, and plus with vibe coding and Replit and other the things, it's also more easier to spin out some things, and even small features can be a product, which is there. So the primary thing for most companies to look at is like AI is a transformation within companies, and we speak a lot about it, but that's basically embedded within the product. So the way I see any AI product coming across is earlier you used to have a SaaS product, which you sell to the marketing team and tell the marketing team like this is how you use the product in terms of either analytics, customer journey visualization, ad optimization, or attribution. And it's totally dependent on that particular person, like how well he uses it to get the maximum value from the product, which is there. Now, what has happened is with agents, there is a product, then there are agents to help you use the product very efficiently. And more the user just gives strategic direction. in terms of either prompts or in terms of like just seeing how it works and what's the kind of output it does. So in a sense, the earlier it was a product and then a user. Now it's product plus agent plus user. That's how it has changed. So that's something which is very important to recognize. So what this basically means is the product plus agent still serves the same use case. I want to hire faster. I want to do a better ROI on my LinkedIn ads. I want to see how LinkedIn compares to my paid search ads. All of these things are all use cases, and now software have actually basically converted with software plus agents still solve for the use cases. So primarily having a use case led approach in terms of evaluating software is very important, because I have this pain whether this product can then solve for the pain. The AI part is more secondary. Like, I know you are evaluating me and some others, but why I am AI and future proof? Because most companies not buy for like immediate 3 months lead, they buy for a future product and they buy for a future story as well. And that's something which needs to clearly come out.
Very interesting. Yeah. So let's talk about team and culture for a second now. So how are you coaching your teams right now at Factors? Do you have any rituals or frameworks that you follow?
I wish we had a lot more kind of like a standard policy document and other this thing.
Mhm.
We have been a little scrappy there. But one thing which has significantly influenced our management styles is like as founders, we are from broadly three major companies. One is InMobi,
Yeah.
Freshworks, and Google. So all these companies have taught us kind of like a lot of interesting work cultural philosophies. In a sense, it's like one, being nice is something which is a paramount thing. Second, kind of like having responsibility with what you are doing and taking ownership of that responsibility, because you are given to do the task. You know, you are incentivized to do it. You take responsibility end to end to do that task very, very well. Third, then on top of that, in terms of like being kind of like results oriented and also understand prioritization oriented, because always there is a couple of things to do. I can always spin up like 15 things like, okay, why don't we build an agent for this? Why don't we do this thing? What is the immediate bang for work? What is the best bang for work? What is something which making us more and more future proof? Because that's still like a couple of $1 million plus. We are still a small scale startup, right? We need to look at like how we can actually be there for the next 15 years, 20 years, etc. And that thinking actually comes from first principles thinking to see like, okay, what are the key problems, how we are solving it, and how we have a kind of like a certain moat here and other this thing, and then coming back into like how we are solving for the use case. So in a sense, these are the broad principles we actually push down into the team. And at no point in time these are kind of like uh, contradictory or anything, because we want to be nice. We want to stick to a very, very clear performance oriented culture in terms of like stick to what kind of outcomes maximum bang for buck efficiency, and most importantly taking ownership and having a bias for action here. And that's something which we clearly look for our own new kind of like hires. Or like, are they people who have a bias for action? Are they someone who are like passive in terms of like waiting for things to come, or they actually roll up their sleeves and go and get things done? These are the kind of things which we look at. That's how we encourage within the team, and that's something which we also hold ourselves up against. We need to be really good for that.
Interesting. So, I've seen you travel so much. I mean, travel for events, travel for business, and so on, right? I keep on seeing your selfies and videos, which often come on my LinkedIn feed. I was just curious. I mean, like, how do you stay in touch with the customers, or is there any process personally that you're following, right? Because how do you maintain connect with the problem, the issues, and all those things which are coming up during your travel and so on?
So very simply, there is we use Olive and Good Meetings for our call recordings, and there is an Olive bot and a meeting bot, which basically comes back to us with summaries of each and every calls. And it
Mm-hmm.
also then comes back with like there will be multiple calls, because like we are like more than 250 signups a month, so there'll be like huge number of calls that's coming. But even on a daily basis, it gives a summary. So one thing is we
Mm-hmm.
use AI and tools to actually keep us on track of these things.
Mhm,
Second is like we also set up alerts and workflows within Factors where to say like which companies which are in consideration, which companies which are in customer stage, which companies which are like looking at each and every stage, what they're doing, and alerting ourselves based on this. So for example, if an existing customer is looking at alternatives after 6 months into the contract, there's a likelihood they might churn, or a competitor might have kind of like spoken to them recently and they're kind of evaluating something like alternatives. Second is like knowing which companies we want to target, whether they have got enough number of impressions. Because what happens on LinkedIn generally is like a lot of companies end up taking less than 10 impressions for the whole month, barely
Mhm.
nothing, to make sure whether they get enough ads and other this thing. So we dog food our product itself to then basically work on this thing to say like, okay, we keep track of each and every customer and how we do. So I have always, if I open up a tab, I'll have like at least 15 tabs to say that, okay, these are the things which are happening, and recording data back into this and then pushing it back to the team to actually follow up very clearly. Second is like we were also again lucky in terms of getting a very good team, both from a customer success perspective and from a sales perspective, for us to do very well in terms of using them and then scaling.
Yeah, very interesting. So even at MeetRecord, right, you can capture all these signals. They are all summarized and sent to the leaders, and you can track things like deal pulse, which basically crystallize at least the conversation,
Yes.
meeting, deals, CRM insights into one single number, and you can track those things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we are at the final part of our podcast. It's a lightning round, right? So I am expecting very quick answers. So one book or podcast that you're right now glued to.
Um, Podcasts, I'm glued to the 20VC podcasts.
Ah,
They
nice.
do a lot of interesting insights into like how companies think, how companies have grown, and how they have actually worked on and other this thing. I also look at books which are not about GTM, but more importantly, generally about kind of founding culture, sales, and kind of like being very kind of building things in a long way. So here I look at it at different points of time. I look at books around like influence beyond authority. How do you influence people who you don't have any authority on? What are the key ways? How do you basically work on these things to make it work? That's one thing. Second, I read a lot of history to understand like how each paths were built at different points in time, what people went through, stories of resilience, stories of grit, stories of kind of product building. So it can be stories of this thing. So it's like technology history, company history, world history in general teaches you a lot for you to one stay humble at both, but more importantly stay resilient, which is there. So these are the kind of things which I have in my reading list. So I would immediately recommend Influence Beyond Authority. That's something which people need to look at. I would also recommend a lot of other books around hard things about hard things. I would recommend Babur's Babarnama. It's a very good book
Mhm.
around Emperor Babur and his own struggles before he actually eventually came to India and others. And there are quite a few others as well in this list.
Yeah, very interesting for you to point out a history book, right, amongst all the non-fictional books and business books. And any belief that you have had that you held for the 5 years, which you have changed suddenly or over recent times?
Huh. In a sense, like one thing, this is actually it was a more of a positioning change and other this thing where like a lot of times people generally talk about and advise us something like if you're selling to SMB and mid market, you have to talk about features, speed, and other this thing. If you're talking to enterprises, you have to talk about security, more like large business outcomes and all those things. Actually, even enterprises care about speed. They also care about which features, which functionality, which you do. And this was something like which was great. Like you have to change your website and you have to have a very clear like I drive revenue faster than this thing. People actually then find it like okay, you look very similar to some other company with someone else. You drive revenue efficiently. You drive more revenue with conversations. Conversational intelligence to do something. Just keep it very, very simple, saying that exactly what you do and then come out of it. And other this thing has a huge benefit. And this is a positioning advice which people always miss. And positioning is something it takes a long time for you to recorrect if you make a mistake, which is that. And that's something which has changed for me over the last couple of years. Second thing which has also changed, which is more additional, this thing like email has stopped working specifically. Especially if you do a lot of automated emails and sequenced emails and this thing, people have stopped reading emails. But on the other hand, LinkedIn works very, very well, both ads and also conversations, because LinkedIn is a more than 1 billion people, almost every white collar executive is present on LinkedIn, looking to learn from other peers and also through feeds and what is there. So, LinkedIn as a space both for you to do social posting and also running ads and also connecting with people is something that's become very, very important, which wasn't there 5 years back.
Pretty interesting. So, for all the new startups out there, LinkedIn is one channel where they need to increase their presence on, right? So, one last question, right? What are you excited about Factors over the next 5 years?
Oh, yes. So the larger, while the primary this thing which we solve for is like B2B ad optimization and driving more pipeline with better ads, intelligence, and attribution. What we are very clearly interested in is like with the new agentic era, how we automate and actually bring together a much larger, more efficient agentic product for marketers, for B2B marketers to use. I'm not putting this in a very simple level. Like currently, we have a product or set of tools or products. There is a large tech stack, and there is a CMO, there is a marketing operations, there is a marketing analyst, there is a campaign manager, demand generation manager, product marketer, so many others using the product or using this tech stack tool to deliver marketing outcomes. What we see over the next 5 years is like there'll be a CMO and maybe a product marketer or a creative content writer who's that who looks at the creative parts and also the product positioning parts which need more deep thinking, and the CMO who can think about strategy and this thing. And then there'll be only Factors.ai which has a product and agents to execute all the strategy. So that's what we are looking into the future. So a kind of like agentic marketing product which will primarily execute all marketing strategies for B2B companies while enabling the marketers to do the creative and positioning and the long-term strategizing part, which is very clearly that that's the future which we are looking at.
Amazing, Sri Krishna. This was such a fun and insightful chat. And we discussed everything from GTM tech stacks to the analytics and agentic marketing, which is the future right now, right? So, for everyone from startups to enterprises, the leaders who have actually tuned in, we hope this gave you a few things to take back and ponder on, right? Um, if you really liked what we discussed, do subscribe, do like, and share with your team, right? This was
Yes.
a really good podcast with you, Sri Krishna. Thank you. Right.
Thanks a
Catch you
lot,
in the
Snehal.
next one. Sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank
Amazing.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.